So why does a moment like this escalate so quickly, and yet the parent is doing their best to remain calm? Now, if you've been in a moment like this, then you'll know how quickly everything can just slip out of your hands, even though you're doing everything you can to help your child. And by the end of this video, you will understand why moments like this spiral, and the first small shift that finally changed the pattern for this family. But before we break this moment down, we need to understand what this family is carrying. This is Nikki and Chris, parents doing their best to raise two young boys in a season of life that has tested them in ways they'd never expected. And their oldest son, Cameron, is 4 years old, and he is full of emotion and full of energy, and is often overwhelmed by big feelings that come faster than anyone can respond. And that moment you saw in the beginning is not new. These patterns have been building for a long time, at home, at nursery, and in all the spaces in between. And now, to understand why that moment escalates, we need to understand what daily life looks like for this family. The pace, the pressure, and the moments that stack up before anyone has a chance to catch their breath. And there's a moment later in this episode that makes everything clearer. A moment where the entire pattern finally clicks into place.
You're not climbing up that, don't hit me.
Moments like this have become a part of everyday life for this family. Quick, intense, and overwhelming for everyone involved. Nikki is doing her best to stay calm, to stay close, and to not match the intensity. But these moments erupt faster than anyone can physically react. And this isn't the only time it happens today.
Stop! Stop!
Are you in control or not? Because look where your child is.
And just as things were feeling intense at home, everything shifts again once they step outside. And these moments happen fast, faster than Nikki can respond. And you can feel how quickly fear replaces connection. And this still isn't the moment when things start to change. We see this pattern again, and soon.
Look, look.
Inside the house, these moments keep coming. Sudden, sharp, and deeply difficult for Nikki to navigate. She's trying to stay calm. She's trying to stay gentle. But even a soft approach can turn quickly when a child becomes overwhelmed. And the pressure on the family is still building.
Cameron's now actually been asked to leave the nursery. He has smacked staff, bitten staff.
And it's not just at home. These moments are now reaching into Cameron's world outside of the family. And when a nursery raises concerns like this, the weight of it lands hard. It's another reminder that they're running out of places that feel safe and predictable. And things continue to get harder.
Don't kick me! Cameron! For goodness sake! Get up!
And moments like this, they take a toll. Not just emotionally, but physically too. And Nikki's doing everything she can to keep things moving, to keep the day on track. But even simple routines can turn into exhausting battles, and the pressure keeps building. And then there are moments that cut even deeper. The kind that stop you before you even process what's happened. And you can see how much this wears on Nikki. Each moment layering itself on top of the last. And the strain on the whole family is growing.
I hold my hands up to everything I'm crap at.
No, but that's because you've already interfered.
And when moments like this stack up, the pressure just doesn't stay with the child. It echoes into the relationship too. Nikki and Chris are both overwhelmed. They're both trying, both exhausted, but struggling to find the same page. And this tension is pushing them even closer to breaking point.
It's 10 p.m. After an epic 4.5-hour rage, Cameron has finally given up the fight.
And by this point, there's nothing left in the tank. These long, draining evenings, they take a quiet toll. The kind that you only feel when the house is finally still. And moments like this, they leave Nikki wondering how much more of this she can take. How much more can she carry?
Could you say sorry?
Sorry. Okay, let's have that hug.
And even in the middle of all of this, there are glimpses, moments that show how deeply this family love each other. Moments that remind you that this isn't about a naughty child, but a family trying to find their way through something bigger than any of them. And now, finally, we are ready to understand what sits underneath all of it. And after seeing how quickly things spiral for this family, Joe steps in with the first major teaching moment. It starts with something surprisingly simple, a decision about what not to use. Because before Nikki and Chris can learn about what will work for Cameron, Joe needs to remove something that absolutely won't.
There is no point in me saying to the pair of you, we're going to go straight forward with a naughty step, a naughty chair, because his temperament is too explosive. What we are going to do is to start off by taking that control back.
So, why is Joe rejecting the naughty step? And what does this decision tell us about the behavior pattern we've already seen? We're not seeing slow, deliberate misbehavior. We're seeing fast, emotionally driven escalation. Striking, spitting, kicking, running, all happening in seconds, not minutes. And this is behavior rooted in overwhelm, not calculation. Joe recognizes that Cameron's emotional intensity is too high for a structured timeout procedure. Using something like a naughty step will most likely escalate things for Cameron. And that is because it adds containment without support. She removes the tool entirely. So rather than focusing on traditional consequences, she supports the adults to regain control. And this forms the foundation for everything that follows. So Cameron isn't doing this to get attention or to avoid things. Cameron is doing it because he is overwhelmed. When his feelings spike, they spill out fast and hard. And in moments like this, adding punishment or isolation does not help to calm the storm. It usually makes it bigger. ABA would not use a punishment-based approach here. When a child is already overwhelmed, the first job is to steady the adults, lower the intensity, and make the child feel safe again. Kids can only settle when the grown-ups set the emotional tone, so that the focus is on calming with them rather than reacting against them. So Joe's decision to remove the naughty step is completely aligned with behavioral science. She recognizes that when a child is overwhelmed, adding an isolating consequence does not teach anything. It just adds more stress. So here Joe is firmly stepping in the right direction for rejecting a procedure that would have made everything worse. That is 1 out of 1. But recognizing what not to do is only the beginning. The next question is bigger. What do Nikki and Chris do in that moment when everything escalates? And to answer that question, Joe teaches Nikki and Chris the first concrete skills that they will use in that moment of escalation. It's simple, physical, calm, and it changes the rhythm of the moment completely.
So walk over here, take his hand, and tell him to go away from the door.
So, from a behavioral perspective, what is Joe trying to interrupt? And does controlled removal actually fit the moment? So when Cameron escalates, it's fast and it's intense. He moves towards an adult rather than away from them. And it makes the interaction feel like a collision rather than a conversation. And Joe sees the adults get pulled into this collision, their tone, their movements, and their reactions. And these all reinforce that emotional loop. And so Joe teaches controlled removal, a neutral, calm guide to move Cameron away from the trigger and breaking that physical and emotional cycle. The thing is, when behavior is driven by emotional overflow, the immediate need is safety and space, not consequences. Controlled removal in this case supports regulation rather than escalating intensity. ABA would also step in here, not to overpower the moment, but to make the moment feel safer. So instead of moving a child away because they're doing something wrong, we guide them gently because their feelings have taken over and they cannot find the way back on their own. So we offer 2 small lifelines. A simple cue that they understand in the middle of that noise, for example, hands down, and a predictable little routine, for example, deep breathing. And we keep this the same every time. That tells them, you're safe, I'm here, let's settle together. So Joe and behavioral science are in agreement. Both look to interrupt the cycle without increasing emotion. But ABA would widen the structure with a clear replacement behavior and a follow-through routine. For example, hands down and deep breathing. So for interrupting the escalation cycle calmly and effectively, that's another step in the right direction. And we are at 2 out of 2. But interrupting the moment is only one piece. For this to work long term, Nikki needs a way to lead the moment before it escalates. And this is where Joe teaches something that sounds simple, but changes the entire dynamic. Joe shows Nikki how to give Cameron directions in a way that Cameron can actually process.
Copy me, okay? Cameron, can you pass me the ball, please, love?
Cameron, can you pass me the ball, please?
Go up higher. Cameron?
So why does tone matter so much? And what does it change for a child who struggles with big emotions? When Cameron feels uncertain, overstimulated, or overwhelmed, he hesitates or resists even simple instructions. The instruction doesn't land, not because he's choosing not to listen, but because the signal is unclear. Joe recognizes that Nikki's tone is gentle and hesitant, a tone that leaves the request open without the clarity that Cameron needs to organize his behavior. Joe models a firmer, clearer instruction. Short phrase, steady tone and low emotion, and immediate acknowledgement when Cameron responds. Tone helps to reduce ambiguity for a child who's already struggling with emotional overload. Clarity lowers the cognitive effort. He doesn't have to process so many words at once. And this makes compliance easier, not harder. ABA would look to make things clearer as well. And then it would add a simple 3-step pattern instruction. Clear cue, short pause, follow through. It would teach Cameron a small 3-step routine that would help him to be ready to listen. So the expectation becomes predictable and not guesswork. So Joe's instinct is right on target here. Children absorb tone way before they absorb the words. So ABA would strengthen the structure around the skill, turning tone into a teachable routine. So for modeling clear communication that reduces overwhelm, that's another step in the right direction, and we are at 3 out of 3. And so with a clearer tone in place, Joe adds one final piece, a simple contingency that helps Cameron to understand what happens next. And this final teaching moment brings all the skills together: tone, calm removal, and clear boundaries. It's a small exchange, but it's one that helps Nikki and Chris provide Cameron with a predictable structure.
If you want to drink the drink, you can. But if I see you throw it again, I'll be taking it off of you.
So what makes a simple choice like this effective? And what's still missing to make this work every single time? Cameron sometimes throws objects when he's overwhelmed or when he's unsure what to do. It's quick and impulsive and not deliberate. Joe sees a moment that needs structure, not argument. She reduces the complexity and offers 2 predictable choices. She uses a basic contingency. 2 choices, both clear, both linked to behavior. Now, this clarity reduces confusion. Predictable consequences reduce escalation, and calm delivery lowers stress for everyone involved. ABA would keep the choice, but it would add one missing piece: a replacement behavior. We teach Cameron something he should do instead of throwing, like asking for help or stepping back for a breath. So Joe's contingency is a strong foundation. It's consistent, it's calm, it's predictable. And ABA strengthens this by teaching what to do instead. And this gives Cameron a path forward whenever he feels frustrated. He could use this replacement skill. And so that's another step in the right direction. And we are at 4 out of 4 for giving Nikki and Chris a predictable structure that they can use in tough moments. And so with these pieces in place, clearer tone, gentler guidance, and simple choices that Cameron can actually manage, we finally start to see something new. Cameron responding differently. and the whole family getting their first real glimpse of hope.
That's yours now, but I want you to sit nicely at the table and eat it. Well done, thank you.
For the first time today, something shifts. Nikki gives a clear direction. Steady, confident, grounded. And Cameron actually follows it. It's a tiny moment, but tiny moments are where change begins. You can hear it in her voice now. A tone that Cameron can recognize, and a rhythm he can finally settle into. And for this family, this is the first real sign that things can move in a different direction. And outside of the house, the shift becomes even clearer.
Slow down a little bit for me, please, Cameron, because we're coming up to the road now.
Good boy, well done.
Thank you.
To Daddy.
And out here, where things used to go wrong, you can feel a different kind of moment taking shape. Chris gives a clear direction, Cameron listens, and for the first time, the walk outside doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like progress. And these are the moments that build a parent's confidence. Not dramatic breakthroughs, just small steps that land the first time you ask. And you can almost see the relief in Chris's face, like a weight he's been carrying for years has finally shifted, even slightly. And once these moments begin to stack up, something even more important begins to take root.
You were here, weren't you, number 12, so you need to go to number 13. Yeah.
Moments like this might seem tiny, but for Cameron, they're huge. See, he spent so much of his little life hearing about what he's done wrong. So hearing about what he's actually doing right gives him something new. It gives him a sense of pride. And you can see it on his face, that little spark, almost as if he's saying, I did that. It's a child beginning to believe that they can do well. And for Nikki and Chris, it's the first time in a long time that the future looks less frightening and a little more possible. And then there's the moment that pulls everything together and shows what this family has been carrying underneath it all.
So that he's always there in everyone's hearts.
In the middle of all that noise, all that pressure, all the fear of what might happen next, this family has been carrying something far heavier than anyone could see. And when Joe helps them to create this small space, a place to honor their little boy, everything they'd lived through, it becomes more than a garden. It becomes a reminder that they haven't failed, that their love has been bigger than the chaos, that even in the hardest moments, they kept on trying, and that trying was enough. And maybe that's what Cameron needed most. Not perfection, not flawless parenting, but adults who could hold him through the storm while finding their way back to each other. This family isn't fixed now, but they're no longer breaking. They're learning, they're growing, and they're rebuilding something that matters. And for the first time in a long time, you can feel hope settling back into this home.